What's up, homies? Max Minus here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a good day. Today I want to talk about things that I've learned over the past year and a half or so that have actually helped me dramatically improve my melodies. These are techniques and things that I've noticed and things that I've learned that have helped me make melodies with more texture. They sound more melodic, more professional, and more profound. And I've been able to make melodies good enough to the point where I've actually made more beat sales now than I ever have before. I don't want to waste your time. Let's just get into the video. So the first thing that I actually want to talk about is probably geared or aimed to producers who are probably new in the space, or maybe this can apply to intermediates as well. You don't need to spend tons of money on VSTs that aren't cheap. But however, the best $300 that I've ever spent was on the signature version of FL Studio. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because it doesn't come with all of the VSTs that the full version of FL Studio comes with. However, it comes with still a significant amount of quality sounds. VSTs like Flex, GMS, FL Keys have amazing sounds. So if you're newer or you're just not in the position to buy VSTs right now or synthesizers or anything like that, don't stress it, because you can get by with either the signature version of FL Studio, which is the one that I have, which is $300, or the full version, which is $500, and that is plenty to get you started. Plus, it'll give you an opportunity to learn the basics about sound design and how to use certain things to manipulate envelopes and to make effects, so that you can slowly build up and not feel overwhelmed with a complicated VST like Serum or like Omnisphere. I'm going to show you right now that all you need to make a good professional melody is a stock VST synthesizer or plugin that's in FL Studio. So check this out. I made this beat just using Flex, which is a stock VST, and GMS, which is a stock VST. Like I said, the melody that is in this beat is just made out of those stock plugins. So let me play it for you and you guys can get an idea of how legitimate it sounds. All stock VSTs. So you guys get the idea. Absolute banger of a melody. It's catchy, it's got bounce, and it's got texture and variety. Let me show you guys in this pattern right here. This is the bell pattern, so this is what it sounds like if we just listen to the pattern. Okay, so you can hear the strings and GMS bells that are in there. So this is GMS. These are all the sounds that are included as a bass or 808, right? So you got 59 sounds there. For leads and synths, you got 104 lead and synth sounds right there. For pads and textures, you got 34. Special effects, you got 8, and I don't think I saved any user ones. Oh, and look at that, you got even more bass sounds right there. So that's like over 300 sounds, plenty to choose from. The user interface is pretty simple to use. You can just pretty much experiment with the different effects here. It gets a little bit more complicated here, but it's not that hard. I'll explain that a little bit more in a different video. It's a little bit outside of the scope of this video, but you can find decent sounds and you don't have to do too much with the user interface. You just select on program, find a sound that you like and select it. Same thing here with Flex. Flex has a very user-friendly interface here, so as a beginner or anybody who's still learning about audio engineering and wants to learn sound design, this is a perfect place to start, because this is where you learn how to manipulate the ADSR. You can mess with the cutoff, the pitch, all that good stuff, which is pretty much like basic territory for learning sound design. And I'll show you guys what's included with Flex since we're here. The Arc Sun Cityscape, plenty of sounds right there. We got drums, decent amount of drum sounds. I use the guitars quite a bit for my Travis Scott type beats, or like, yeah, I would say like mostly my Travis Scott type beats or like Future type beats, I'll use guitars. Mostly the acoustic guitars like the Nylon. We got the pianos. I use pianos quite a bit. Decent amount of piano sounds right there. A decent amount of string sounds right there. I use the sustained all string, so it gives it like a wide orchestra type sound. We got the winds, so clarinets, brass, trombones, trumpets, all that good stuff. We got the general MIDI library right here with lots of sounds right there. Okay, I could go on and on. Sounds everywhere. Flex is amazing. GMS is good, but I think Flex is a little bit better. And then for this pattern right here, I used Flex again. So I bought this pack, Analog Monsters, off the UVI. I think Analog Monsters is $15, and I was like, why not? And it came with a decent amount of sounds, you can see right here, so 60 sounds or something like that. And I went with this Bell OB Songery, and I created this chord progression right here. These sounds are all fairly legit in my opinion. The last beat that I made, that Travis Scott type beat that I'll link up at the top of this video right here if you guys are interested, I also used Flex. I think I used the Nylon light guitar to create that chord progression, as well as the counter melody, I believe. I've just been using the stock VSTs recently because I like the way that they sound, especially Flex. For all of you beginners out there that need more kicks and 808 sounds for FL Studio, go ahead and download this free kit. There's a lot of really quality sounds on here. I'll give you an example of some of the 808s. All right, and then check out all the kicks that I got here. Huge variety and great sounding kicks. So don't forget to find that kit in the link in the description. So hopefully that'll get all of you beginners and intermediates started with your trap beats, since FL Studio pretty much has you covered in the melody section there with all their great sounds and stock VSTs. Now I want to move into more of a theoretical and educational based portion of this video, and this includes something that I've learned, or not just something, but a culmination of things that I've learned this year about music theory and melody creation in general. And I'm so glad that I actually took this serious enough to delve into, because a lot of people are intimidated by music theory. And honestly, it's just a system that explains the relationships of notes and the different relationships that notes have with each other, and how you can manipulate those to create the type of sounds that you're going for. You just have to practice a little bit, be consistent, and the next thing you know, you're able to use it at the drop of a dime. Okay, so I want to show you guys my chord progression here. And so if we look at this whole measure, right, so 8 beats is a whole measure. Half the measure pretty much makes up the entire melody. So this half is the same as this half. Forget these notes right here, I'm going to use as a visual aid, so forget that these are even here. This half is literally the same as this half. I'm repeating the same chord progression twice within that measure. I'm going to show you guys the basics of how a minor chord or a minor scale works. So I'm going to use this right here as a visual aid, like I was just mentioning, about how you figure out what notes that you're allowed to work in when you're doing a minor key, or when you're working in a minor key. So here's the secret sauce, okay? In most contemporary music, melodies start on the 1, okay? Which means the 1 is the chord that has the root note of that key. So for instance, if I'm making the 1 of B minor, I'm going to make the B minor chord. So because I'm making a chord that follows along with the root note of the actual key, we're going to call it B minor, right? So we're in B minor, because these are all the notes that we're going to use. These are all the notes that are included in B minor, because I started with my root note on B and I followed this pattern. whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So that's the pattern that you need to follow if you're working within B minor. Again, you start with the root note, which is B, and then to make the minor scale, which is the key of B minor, you go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Okay, then you end up with 7 notes within that key of B minor. Okay, so when I say B minor scale, that just means the notes that are included in the B minor key. Right here, if I want to make a minor chord that is in the key of B minor, or that uses the same notes in that scale right there that I just talked about, I'm going to select B because that's the root note, right? So B. Now I'm going to go to the 3, which is the third note. So imagine I just deleted the lower octave right here, and these are all the notes that are part of that scale, the B minor scale. I'm going to make a triad chord, right? So that's going to go to the 1, the 3, and the 5. So that's how you make a basic minor chord right there, which is also known as a minor triad. The reason why it's a triad is because there's 3 notes there. And then this is a B minor because we follow the minor scale here, and we follow with the 1, 3, 5 pattern. So 1, 3, 5. This is note 1, 2, 3, note 3 right there, note 4, note 5. But you're probably wondering, okay, you just made B minor. Why does it look different than this B minor? Well, it's because all I did was go up 8 notes from F sharp. So this is called an inversion. So as we just saw, I followed that pattern and I made this triad. I made the 1, the 3, and the 5. But what I did with the 5 is I just transposed it down to the same note, right? F sharp. I was up here at F sharp. All I did was bring it down to the octave below at this F sharp. Okay, that's called a third inversion because I took the third note of that chord and brought it down. If I wanted to do a second inversion, I would take the D and bring it down an octave. Now that we got basic music theory out of the way and how to make a triad, a minor triad, and how to recognize that pattern that you want to follow to make that triad, I'm going to talk about how we create that progression that's going to sound professional, that's going to have more emotion, it's going to sound catchier, and it's going to be more profound. Let's take a listen here. Like I said, we started with the 1. Now, this melody is going to follow the progression of 1, 1, 5, 5. Now, 1, 1, 5, 5 doesn't actually have to be the same exact type of the 1 and the 5. As you can see, there's variation here. So we do 1, 1, which is B minor like we talked about, because B is the root note of the B minor scale. So we made those 2 chords right there, B minor, B minor. Now our third note is going to be the 5. So you're probably wondering, well, why is it called the 5? Well, because the root note of this chord starts from the 5th note of the B minor scale. So remember, we talked about B minor. We start at B, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. That's the pattern. So we got 2 octaves worth of notes that are included in the B minor scale. And then, like I was saying, this right here is the 5 because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. So the 5 is going to be F sharp suspended 4. Now don't let that confuse you. A suspended chord is actually really easy to explain. It is a triad, but it's not a traditional minor triad, or technically it's not traditional major either. It's somewhere in between. But I'll explain that in a little bit. So you see, this progression goes 1, 1, 5. Right here's a 5, because we made a chord that's root note is the same as the 5th note in the scale right here. So I hope that makes sense. We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, we're building a minor chord from F sharp because F sharp is that 5th note there. And that's why we call it the 5. So what we did here, what I did, is I built that triad. So we started with that root note, then we're going to put that second note of the triad on the 3. So 1, 2, 3, we're going to put that second note on the 3. And then the third note of our triad here is going to be on the fifth, right? So we go 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right there, we put that third note there. So that makes F sharp minor. However, like I said, this isn't going to be an F sharp minor chord. This is going to be F sharp suspended 4. So you're probably wondering, well, what is a suspended 4 chord? All you do is move the 3 to the 4. Okay, pretty simple. Suspended 4, basically you can think of it as suspending the 3 and swapping it out for the 4. So this is what it sounds like now. So now it has a much brighter and open sound than a regular minor chord, right? So with that B minor, it's very resolute. It kind of sets the stage for the melody. And then our third chord hits right here, and it's a suspended 4, and it gives it a completely different sound. And so that's going to give the melody good movement as we go through that progression. We go 1, 1, 5, 5. Okay, so same principle as before. This is also the 5 because the root note starts on the 5th note of the B minor scale, right? So we got F sharp right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to start on that note. Now, this isn't a suspended chord. This is F sharp minor. However, I deleted all the notes in between. So this is what F sharp minor is supposed to look like, and I just showed you, but I'm going to show you again just for practice. We got the 1 on the root note here. We're going to put the second note on the 3, which is the third note here. Then we're going to put that third note of the triad on the 5, which is right here. But you notice how E is right there. So this is actually called F sharp minor 7 because we added the 7th note of that scale to the chord, right? So we have the 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, right? So this isn't a triad. This is a 4-note chord, all right? But this is still different because I deleted for the melody those 2 middle notes right there. So this is what it sounds like with all 4 notes. This is what it sounds like as just F sharp minor, as that triad. As you can tell, it sounds quite a bit different once I add the E in there. The F sharp minor 7 still has a bright and open sound despite the fact that the scale that we're working in is minor. And so just like F sharp suspended, we built tension, but now that F sharp minor 7 played, now it's more of like a manipulated type of tension. So we established a bass line with B minor, then we created tension with the F sharp suspended 4. So we created tension, and then now we're changing the tension but still maintaining the tension with the F sharp minor 7. And then what happens after F sharp minor 7? We go back to the beginning of the melody to B minor. So we got the 1, 1, 5, 5, 1, 1, 5, 5, 1, 1, 5, 5, 1, 1, 5, 5. This is nothing too complicated to me, but when I first started, I had a hard time creating these triads and different types of chords because I would consistently forget that pattern that I described to you earlier for how to follow a key. That pattern that I showed you guys, it applies to any root note. That's the only difference between one minor key and the other minor key, is just what root note you're starting on. Okay, that's pretty much going to do it for the video. I will leave links for the MIDIs so that you guys can download these chord progressions so that you can study and kind of go over the patterns of the minor scale, the natural minor scale, and hopefully you can practice and become a better producer. I know that if you practice these things that I've shared with you today, you will be a better melody maker and a better producer and audio engineer. Go ahead and check out my socials, guys, my BeatStars and my Instagram. Make sure you follow me on those for more content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated, and I want to keep on bringing you guys good content to help all the producers out there. That's going to wrap up the video, guys. Don't forget to count your blessings. Have a good night. Peace.